Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lazy Millennial Movement. I am super excited to introduce to you today's guest, Matt Paterini. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you so much, Megan. I can't tell you how excited I am to be on the Lazy Millennial and part of this movement. Based on what you've told me, it's a really, really great idea. Excited to be here today and looking forward to talking with you.
All right, thanks so much. So I'm going to give you all a very brief overview of everything that Matt has going on, and he's going to delve into it a little more as we talk. But so Matt and I met through his blog, The Nontraditional Pharmacist, and it's a really cool website out there and resource for people who are interested in less traditional opportunities for pharmacists. So he'll touch bases on how he and his partners went into that a little bit more, but that's how Matt and I met. So Matt is a graduate of the University of Michigan. He got a bachelor's degree in biology and then went on to pharmacy school. That's where things took a little bit of a turn, Matt, would you say? I think you became more interested in a sales route and ended up at IBM in their global sales school. Yeah. All right. So tell us a little bit about how you got into pharmacy in the first place and your journey through pharmacy school.
Through undergrad at University of Michigan, I enjoyed the sciences, biology, chemistry, and everything, included in that. But I began to think about halfway through, what is the plan after graduation? And I think for a lot of people in the sciences route, the plan is further education, whether that's in healthcare or research, PhD programs to some degree. For me, it was the healthcare route. It was pretty clear that I wanted to follow early enough on, but even so, now that's kind of vague because there's a lot of different routes within healthcare. So I began to evaluate all of the different programs, possible paths to take in healthcare. In fact, I actually almost applied to dental school. I was kind of on the dental school path for a while. But towards the end of my junior year, I had a few meetings with some of the folks in the pharmacy and got to learn a little bit about how pharmacy as a field is really, and still to this day, is really not all that well defined. And I mean that because there's so many different things to do within the field of pharmacy. So that appealed to me because I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do in healthcare. Pharmacy seemed to be a logical step to say, well, there's opportunities in industry, there's opportunities in clinical practice.
I think a lot of pharmacy students go into pharmacy for that reason, right? Like, that you want to be in healthcare, but maybe not be limited to like a specific clinical route or a delineated path that you can't stray away from. And pharmacy is kind of a catch-all where you can do lots of different things or go in lots of different directions.
Yeah, that's exactly in pharmacy school, and kept that mindset through the program. And that's eventually what led to some of the things that I did after pharmacy school and with, and you mentioned the non-traditional pharmacist.
So then how did you know as you were in pharmacy school that maybe you wanted to go a different route? Like, were you ever interested in practicing pharmacy in the traditional sense, or were you always considering less traditional options?
Well, I tried to keep a very open mind going through the pharmacy program. I realized that probably wasn't the best fit for me. I was really more interested in kind of a larger scale application of pharmacy, like either in industry. So I kind of narrowed it down to those two pretty early on, about halfway through actually. And so that led some of the other avenues of what is going to give me exposure to those opportunities. And that then led me to the business school. What the business school was doing was blending business with healthcare. So I met some individuals that worked in the healthcare division of IBM. So pretty much from that point on, I had set my end goal after graduation of pharmacy school was to pursue a career in the healthcare space and technology. And IBM was the logical place to start that because I had some contacts already. And they were the ones that kind of guided me and coached me through the last couple years of pharmacy school and how to position myself for a role at IBM in sales, in business, leveraging the healthcare background.
I'm glad you mentioned that they coached you and guided you, because that's a very important part of, maybe a career shift or just any transition that you're trying to make from point A to point B. I think it's really helpful and important to have people who are there to give you advice and lead you in the right direction. You can learn from their successes, their mistakes. So how was that? Do you think that that was a very significant factor in your being able to successfully transition to sales?
There's no way I would have, and I would say no way, but they were instrumental in my transition from healthcare and pharmacy, the business side of things, because there's really not much connection in terms of the faculty and the
Right.
people that involved in these programs at school. So the people that I met at through the business school were absolutely instrumental. I probably wouldn't have had the job offered if it wasn't for those people helping me through, saying, these are some things to focus on in your last few years. Yes, you have the healthcare background, but now to really improve yourself as a candidate, here are some things that you can do to really position yourself well after graduation in the business space, combine that with pharmacy degree. And there's no way without those people, the professors and the people that professors introduced me to, that I would have been able to do what I did after.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I did an industry fellowship, you might remember, after pharmacy school, and I had zero industry experience. Like, I didn't know what I was doing really, but I had people who were in industry, who had done fellowships and who were now really ingrained in that workforce, who led me and guided me and mentored me. And there was one in particular, her name was Margaret. I'm indebted to her for the rest of my life. Like, I would not have gotten that fellowship program had it not been for her. So it's really critical.
Yeah, it doesn't it kind of seem like that too? There's usually, a lot of people are willing to help, right? I mean, you reach out to people for help, and most of the time, people are very helpful and willing to share their expertise and experience with you. But there's usually that one or two people that are absolutely key in helping you achieve that next step.
Yep. So great. So, okay, you have your guidance and you have your direction, where you want to go. When you finally started at IBM after graduation, what was that transition like for you personally? Was there, that imposter syndrome that many of us suffer from? Was it a smooth transition? How was it for you?
It was a fairly smooth transition. The program that I was hired into IBM through, it's a fairly competitive program, but it's designed to bring in young professionals and postgraduate students to kind of ease the transition of going into a giant corporation like IBM.
Okay.
But having said that, going from pharmacy rotations, pharmacy work into a giant technology company was so overwhelming, and the learning curve was so steep for me. But interestingly enough, the training through pharmacy program, even though the subject is really unrelated, how you approach navigating your way through pharmacy school, those skills are very applicable to starting a new job in any setting, even though the subject matter is unrelated. So that's probably what I took away from pharmacy training the most. The clinical stuff, yes, it's still back there somewhere.
Buried way deep.
Maybe, buried way deep in there behind some cobwebs you have to dust off. But more so, be able to take a complex situation, identify the goals and things that you need to do, and then develop a plan and work that plan to achieve those goals. And that was actually eased my mind a little bit going through such a big transition.
Okay. And how long was this program, the summit program?
Yeah, the summit program was a 6-month program. It started in June of 2016, and it went pretty much through the end of the year.
Okay.
It was a combination of what we're called patient instructors, patients that would play a patient in pharmacy school, and you would, counsel them on certain things. Very similar. You do role playing of sales calls with business professionals. Okay. Combination of presentations and some online work. And it was really a mini MBA is kind of how some of the instructors would describe it. And it's want to take anything away from people that, have actual MBAs.
Right.
But it was a fairly intense training program. And I really did learn a lot about business, technology, and it was a perfect transition from pharmacy into kind of this field now.
All right. And you were the #1 top performer in your class. That's
Yeah.
a pretty big deal.
Yeah, no, I'm proud of that. I appreciate you mentioning that. I'm proud of that.
So when you were in this program, I know some of us, we get into these great programs and we don't quite know exactly what we want to do later, like after we cross that bridge. So at that point in time, did you have a specific goal that you were trying to attain? Or was it like, I just want to explore IBM, explore healthcare tech, see where it goes? Or, what were your goals like at that point in time?
Yeah, everything that you mentioned was kind of included there.
Okay.
A lot of it was exploration. Let's see how this field works out for me. Will I like it? I was told by several people going through pharmacy school and business classes that sales would be a good path for me, and I did enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to see how I actually prefer setting. So that was one part of it. The other part was I want to build my skill set. Sometimes, and I think pharmacists can fall into this sometimes, being too specialized and too one track. I wanted to kind of, widen my skill set, develop something that would be complementary, but was really developing a new skill set, but also exploring an area of healthcare and technology that I think would be growing.
And so now you're no longer at IBM, right? You're at UCG Technologies. Is it?
UCG Technologies, you got that right. It's a IBM business partner. So
okay.
It's not unrelated, but it is farther removed from healthcare, actually. So we do data protection for a specific IBM, the IBMI platform. So
interesting.
It's even more focused on technology, but it's a small organization where I wear a lot of hats. And it's been really exciting so far. And I've been there for about 5 months now.
Okay. And are you in a higher leadership position than you were in at IBM? Is that correct?
Yeah. So in a small organization, I had the opportunity to kind of, I guess you could say, get a higher level position where I'm involved in a lot of different things, sales, marketing, social media stuff, website design, partner ecosystem outreach and partner relationship development. So I do a lot of different things, which is nice for me. I like to be able to juggle a lot of different responsibility.
Okay. Now that sounds like you're responsible for a wider variety of things maybe than you were in at IBM. Was it mostly on the job training, or were there like external resources that you felt like you needed to get familiar with to be able to do this job?
At this job, so it's actually an interesting story how I got from IBM to this job. One of the first things you do when you move to a new city is you need to find a barber and you need to find a place to get a haircut, right?
Right. So you can look presentable.
So you need to clean up.
Right.
So I go to this barber shop downtown Cleveland, and barber, great guy, giving me a haircut and says, what do you do? Where are you from? I work for IBM now. And he said, oh, no kidding. He says, my brother-in-law worked for IBM back in the 80s. In fact, you remind me a lot of him. I think you guys should connect. I said, well, I'd love to make a new connection. I'm new to the area. Sounds like a cool guy. So he gives me his business card. So I take his business card and we meet for lunch. And Jim Kandrak, the president of UCG Technologies, that was his brother-in-law.
Wow.
So I got introduced to my now boss through a barbershop connection.
Wow.
So you just never know where these connections are going to happen. But to answer your question before, there's really no. It's a independently owned, a privately owned company. So there's no. It's on the job training. It's a lot of coaching from the president, working closely with him, and learning what I need to know to get up to speed.
That's a great point about networking and how you met your current boss. I mean, I think a lot of times we go through life like, oh, I'm not in job mode right now. Like I don't need to make connections, or I'm not in the mood to talk, but you never know when you're going to find that connection that could open the door to something you never thought of before.
You're exactly right. Anytime you get an opportunity to meet someone new, to make a new connection, you should always take it because you never know what opportunity is going to be behind that door.
Yep, that's true. Congratulations on your relatively new position.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's talk about the non-traditional pharmacist a little bit. At what point did the non-traditional pharmacist come to be, and how did you and your partners connect to conceive the idea and then launch it?
Yeah, great question. And the non-traditional pharmacist is something that I'm very passionate about, and so are Lynn and Nick, the other two co-founders of this. I'm actually married to Lynn. Now
Oh,
we got married in November of
congratulations.
thank you.
I got married in October.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And Nick's our best friend. So we go way back to the beginning of pharmacy school in, I mean, and Megan, how, you talk of the profession, you talk about the state of the field, and just, kind of friendly conversation. But the story of the non-traditional pharmacist literally happened on a sidewalk, walking back from rotations one day. We're almost done with rotations, and we've seen a lot of different roles in pharmacy, but through the 4 years, we know there is so much more people are doing in the we could see some of the other roles that are out there and some of the other cool things that people are doing in the field of pharmacy. I mean, 9 rotations just isn't enough.
Right.
And so we turned to each other, we said, what if we started an informational resource? Well, we could start as a blog, and we'll see what happens, to inform people and expose a lot of these roles to people just like us wanting to know more. And that's exactly where the idea came from. And pretty much that day we got on the internet, started looking at how to make a blog, and it kind of ran from there. But that was, it really started from a desire to share the knowledge that there's a lot of different pharmacy roles out there with the rest of the pharmacy community.
Yeah, it's an amazing resource, seriously. Like, I've recommended it to so many people, and like I was telling you about the Pharmacist Moms group, right? Like I posted the link in there, and probably 50 pharmacist moms were like, oh my goodness, this is so great. I had no idea it existed. And it really fills a gap that there is in the pharmacy world. Like, there are all these opportunities for pharmacists that we don't learn about in school, and our professors aren't necessarily familiar with them, but they're there. We just need to be exposed to them. So I, for one, am a huge proponent of that informational resource, and I'm really glad you had that idea on that sidewalk that day.
Well, you feel that way, and honestly, you have been the best non-traditional pharmacist guest we've had. Over 800 some shares on our posts, and it's phenomenal, and we really do appreciate it. And we're just glad that it's actually providing some value to people in terms of the education and exposing some of these cool jobs. We have connections too. They're all great people, like we were saying before, willing to help everyone. And it's all about building that network and helping people get to where they want to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you all started it, did any of you have like website building experience, or was that something you just kind of jumped in and figured it out? How did that work out?
Yeah, I have to give Nick Kirkpatrick a lot of the credit on that one.
Okay.
I tend to be the person that I can visualize where we want it to go. But I just kind of say, like, that's what we want to do. And it's going to look great. Nick is excellent. His attention to detail is phenomenal. And the amount of hours, long story short, no, we had no website experience. Nick learned it all mostly on the fly, YouTube videos, doing stuff just on the back end code and other stuff to make it look presentable. And he just did a great job. So no, we had no website experience. Totally organic and self-taught.
That's really great. I mean, the internet is a perfect tool for doing that kind of stuff. Like, anything you want to do, whether you have experience or not, you can find some type of guidance and direction, especially website building. So that's great.
Absolutely.
You started that, I guess, end of your 4th year of pharmacy school. And then you jumped right into IBM Summit program right after graduation, correct? So as far as managing the non-traditional pharmacist, making time for it, making time to grow it, was it, did one of you carry that at a time, or was it evenly distributed? How did you balance everything you had going on?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a balancing act. All 3 of us working full-time jobs, but worked so much together through school, and we know each other so well that we did kind of, whoever was, I guess, least busy would the reins at that given point. And we kind of had specific jobs. You know, I do the interviews, scheduling and actually doing the interviews, but then there's so much other goes into it on the other side. And we kind of have it down to a well-oiled machine where, you know, Nick will do kind of the website kind of engine stuff and make sure everything's running great on the editing and making sure stuff actually sounds good, because I kind of go all over the place. When it's that important, you find the time for it.
Yeah. And has it stayed like a priority as you've moved through your different positions? Now you have a more managerial position. Like, do you find that you still have the same passion for it that you did when it started?
I do. I have the same passion for it when we started. Priority wise, it's tough. It gets tough sometimes, right? I mean, you know, everyone gets busy, and you know, you can't ignore your main priorities, and you do have to prioritize. Prioritize. Right. That's the key. So it's been tough sometimes, but it hasn't diminished the passion that we have for it, or where we want to go, and all of that. So that hasn't changed, and I think because of that, that's kept us on track.
Okay, good. Are there any specific, like, I don't know, I hate the word hacks, like productivity hacks. I think that's like a word that people use, but were there any specific like strategies that you or your wife or Nick used as you've gotten more and more busy in your professional roles to still make time for the non-traditional pharmacist?
Yeah, there's one really, really good one that I will mention, writing things down. If you keeping a running list, and whether that list, for me personally, I like paper and pen.
The categorized list where you have what's urgent and important, what's urgent and not important, not urgent and important, et cetera, and then you can kind of decide what to do now, what to do later, what to delegate, or what that you don't really need to do at all. So that's good. That's a good habit, and I love paper and pen too. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not a real millennial because I like to write things down.
I don't know. It just seems easier to me. I don't know. I've never really, you know, and I'm not so good at typing. I use 2 fingers. You know, I don't do the full thing. So that slows me down.
So where do you see yourself going as far as your career? Like, are you wanting to move up in your organization? Do you want to branch out on your own at some point, or are you still kind of testing out the waters?
Yeah, we're still in the early phases. I've been in this role now, my professional role, for 5 months or 4 months or so. So it's tough to say. I think ultimately, in my mind, I would like to move up in this organization. I want to stick in a spot. I don't want to jump to a bunch of different roles and kind of, you know, a lot of people, and that was kind of the mentality at IBM was, okay, you go here, you get your training, then you go to another role, and then you go to another role, and then you go to another role, and you're bouncing. I want to build something. I like, you know, more than the money part of it, more than, the prestige of stuff. I like something to build on and constantly improve and make better. So that's kind of the professional goal. However that works out, I don't really know.
And I'm glad that you said that too, because I think that sometimes millennials feel like pressure to feel the need to want to do something else, to want to start their own business, or to want to become a freelancer, you know, all these other options, which are great if that's what you're interested in. But it's also not a problem to want to be an employee in an organization and move up the ranks and be promoted and be recognized for your work. Like, that's also a great option. It's all dependent upon the individual and what you personally want out of your career and out of your life.
Right. No, you're exactly right. One of my goals would be to, maybe run this company at some point. But that's not to say, you have to pick a goal, set a goal, and really take time developing that goal. Not just to say, I want to be a clinical specialist in a hospital. Okay, well, what kind of clinical specialist? Do you want to work on weekends? Do you want, and what kind of money do you want to make? That's a part of the story. They don't talk about that in pharmacy school.
Right.
It's a blend of everything. You have to really develop that goal personally and professionally. And once you have a good picture of that total goal, then you can start putting the plan in place to achieve that goal. But you really need to know where you work, and you can adapt and change, of course. But developing that goal from the beginning is so important, because it gives you something to constantly work towards. And, as kind of work in progress.
Yep. And in addition to writing down those, the to-do lists and the tasks that you were talking about, writing down the goals, I think is equally important.
I like that.
It's sometimes hard to, well, what did I say that I wanted to do? You get so deep into this one specific task that you're working on that you almost forget the bigger picture that you're trying to work towards. So I find that writing down goals, some people do vision boards. I don't really do that, but I hear that they're helpful. That might be something that, people could do and it could be productive for them.
That's a great point. Because you can get lost in the details sometimes. And before you know it, you're doing a lot of details that they're not bad, but are they really advancing you to where you want to be?
Exactly.
Different for everyone. Vision boards might work for people, writing down on pen and paper. Some people like to type, voice memos, whatever. It's different for everyone, but keeping yourself on kind of those personal and professional goals is important.
Yeah, I agree. So do you have any final recommendations or tips for, let's say, millennials who may be in an organization and they want to move up, or they want to even maybe find a mentor, someone to connect with to guide them and help them reach their higher goals? Do you have any tips for them?
I would say in general, do what you love to do. That's not to ignore, responsibilities and not prioritize. But, make time for the things that you love to do, make it a happy blend of everything. Continue. You're never there. You're never, done. So continue to network, continue to develop the goals, continue to write things down. If you were taking your time every day to better yourself in some way, whether it's something that you enjoy doing as a hobby, or whether it's something in your professional life, or it's your relationship, take time every day. Make sure you're taking your time that you have every day to improve yourself in any one of those categories. And if you do that over time, you add that up, you're going to be in a good spot.
Excellent. Those are excellent tips, Matt. Thank you so much again for joining us at Lazy Millennial today. This was an awesome talk. Can you let everyone know where to find the Nontraditional Pharmacist?
Yes, anyone looking to learn more about the Nontraditional Pharmacist, please go to our website, www.thenontraditionalpharmacist.com. You can also Google search Pharmacy. We pop right up. Follow us on Twitter at TN Pharmacist, and follow us in our Facebook group at the Nontraditional Pharmacist.
Perfect.
Again, thank you so much, Megan. I just want to say how much I appreciate the opportunity to be on the Lazy Millennial, and I look forward to working with you for many years down the road.
Yes, so do I. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time.